The investigation into the potential unmarked graves on the First Nations has come up empty. According to the RCMP, Mounties say after a year-long investigation into potential unmarked graves detected in Western Manitoba's First Nation, they have not found any evidence pointing to any criminal activities. Wow! Surprise, surprise! I said on Twitter, wait, you mean to tell me that this picture of Justin Trudeau kneeling down at one of the alleged grave sites of the young children who were killed in the residential schools was fake news? You mean to tell me this was just a photo op? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what is going on here in this picture. Meanwhile, we still have another public sector holiday being added to the Ontario calendar. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is now being recognized as a public holiday in Ontario. They seem to be forgetting about the truth part in this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I certainly didn't. Back in June of 2021, I put this out. The truth about residential schools' mass graves. It wasn't genocide. It amplifies the war on Christianity. Hundreds of bodies of Indigenous children have recently been, quote, discovered at a burial sites near residential schools in Canada. And Catholic religious order that operated these schools says it will disclose all historical documents in its possession without any digging, both metaphorically or literally. The Canadian government and the MSM have labeled this case of genocide, and the implications have many turning their hatred towards Christians in today's world. And of course, I followed that up with this one. Kamloops mass graves debunked by academics as the biggest fake news story in Canada. That's right, the coverage ended up triggering protests, which led to church burnings, amplifying the war on Christianity, all based on a lie that Canada is a systemically racist nation that needs to be destroyed so that their Marxist utopia can replace it. And of course, the Pope ended up apologizing, and I posted this. The Pope's apology perpetuates the mass graves and genocide hoax, ladies and gentlemen. So now, after a year of investigations by the RCMP, they've come up with nothing. 0 bodies have been found, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about this and much more in this video. But really quickly, before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You could join me on Subscribestar for a monthly reoccurring contribution. You can send me an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca. Thank you so much to everybody who does contribute in that way. You can also send stuff to my P.O. box, guys. Links for all of this are located in the description below. Thank you so much to everybody who takes the time to support my efforts here today at Press for Truth. All right, guys, let's start with this. Look at this Vancouver Sun article going back to May of 2021. The remains of 215 children found at former Kamloops residential school. They found the remains of these kids. Remember that? A BC First Nations has confirmed that the remains of 215 children who were students of the Kamloops Indian residential schools have been found on the reserve using ground-penetrating radar. Folks, the problem with this, none of this is true. This is an absolutely bold-faced lie. This is blatant fake news. 215 children were not found. It has not been confirmed that the remains of these kids were found using ground-penetrating radar. In fact, the woman who came up with this ground-penetrating radar, the specialist here who allegedly, reported these findings, she herself says right here that she stresses that her findings was a preliminary investigation. Only forensic investigations with excavation will provide any definitive results. This is literally the person who found this stuff in the first place. She's saying this is not definitive. This is just preliminary. We have to do excavations in order to figure out if this is indeed the case. But that didn't stop articles like this from going around worldwide and everybody thinking this is, in fact, the issue. And guess what it led to? Churches being burnt down. They're being burnt down to the ground. In this article, it explains why a spree of church arsons have occurred across Canada in less than 2 weeks. 7 churches have burned following the discovery of 1,000 unmarked graves on the land of former boarding schools for Indigenous assimilation. Guess what? They weren't found. People were going out, like, burning down churches, all based on this lie. I went around in the city of Vancouver interviewing people on the streets. Guys, if you haven't seen this one, oh man, this is just absolutely crazy. Like 90% of the people I spoke to were basically in favor of church burnings. They thought it was, you know, a good thing to do in response to the so-called residential school kids that, as we say and as we show, have never been found. Again, this is crazy. Most of all these people fully agree, like this guy here, fully agrees that churches should be burnt down. Again, all of this was based on a huge lie, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a look at this here. The Pine Creek First Nations had requested that the RCMP launch an investigation after it found 14 points of concern underneath the Catholic Church in the community last year using ground-penetrating radar. RCMP say in a release that officers interviewed community members, conducted surveys, and follow-ups on other leads. Investigators were unable to uncover any evidence that showed a crime had occurred there related to what was being detected at the site. The community is set to begin excavating the area underneath the Our Lady of Seven Sorrows Catholic Church on Monday. Mounties say if anything is located in the dig that may be related to criminal activity, well, then the officers will continue with the investigation. But according to the RCMP, as it is right now, this is a big, huge nothing burger. Exactly what I was talking about, you know, way back in June of 2021, and people were saying, how dare you suggest that this is not true? People were very, very upset with that, but the investigations are coming up with nothing. Guys, they're not excavating the bodies. And obviously, yes, bad, horrible things happen there. But you know what? A lot of people don't talk about there as well is the amount of children who died from, like, tuberculosis. And there's a lot of diseases going around at the time. There was malnutrition. There was starvations. There was a lot of reasons that don't necessarily point to a purposeful, you know, planned genocide. And like I said, guys, I've covered this extensively ever since it came up. Please, if you haven't watched them, watch these 3 videos. The Truth About Residential Schools Mass Graves. It wasn't genocide. It amplifies the war on Christianity. Followed it up with this Mass Graves Debunked by Academics as the biggest fake news story in Canada. That was actually based on a National Post article that came out that did a pretty good job basically debunking this entire thing. But it's still relatively unknown to the mainstream. And of course, the Pope perpetuated this whole nonsense with the apology for these mass graves and genocide. Guys, if you haven't seen these videos, be sure to check them out. But yeah, blatant fake news and lies from the MSM, the mainstream media, is just another reason why you got to just crumple up your newspapers, turn your TVs off, and continue to support the outlets that have, you know, will bring you this information, actually looking at the truth about what's going on, you know, as opposed to what we're seeing from the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation that is being recognized in response to all these kids who have not been found. So just wanted to bring this one to your attention today, guys. Also, check out this video, Canada Day got canceled. These are the people who want to burn down the churches. Unbelievable stuff here, as these people were lied to. They were duped by the mainstream media to think that there was a massive genocide that took place here in Canada. Guys, if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please don't forget to click the thumbs up button. Share this one, especially with your friends and family who need to see it the most. Don't forget to check me out over here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, guys. And that's all for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, this was a massive propaganda piece. This is a fine example of how the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau tugs at the heartstrings of the Canadian people to, you know, further his own image, his own persona, his own agenda. but we're going to continue to expose this for the lie that it is. Again, if you appreciate that, don't forget to click the thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.